What if I told you that 500 years before Columbus set sail to the Americas, German monks had already perfected the art of colonial genocide? Meet the Teutonic Knights, history's most successful psychopaths in religious garb. In 1226, the Pope gave them a golden bull, basically divine license to commit genocide. Pope Eugenius III was crystal clear: convert the Baltic tribes or wipe them out entirely. Guess which one they chose? These were not your typical medieval knights. They ran industrial-sized slave operations. Their own chroniclers described capturing raids like shopping trips. Peter Suchenworth was an Austrian poet and herald in the late 14th century. He accompanied Duke Albrecht III of Austria on a military campaign in Prussia in 1377. His writings are very vivid. They include poems and descriptions and cute little artwork. He writes about an event that took place in what is now Bosnia-Herzegovina, which says, and I quote, "Women and children were taken captive. What a jolly melody could be seen. Many a woman could be seen, 2 children tied to her body, one behind, one in front. On a horse without spurs, barefoot they had ridden here. The heathens were made to suffer. Many were captured, and in every case were their hands tied together. They were led off, all tied up, just like hunting dogs." Astonishing use of the word jolly. Suchenworth was a contemporary witness, and what he witnessed was systematic torture. Jolly, that's the word they used. They deliberately avoided converting Lithuanian prisoners. Christian slaves had rights, but pagan slaves could be worked to death. Brilliant business model, really. Torture was systematic. Resistors got, and I quote, "tied to their horses and burned alive, stakes driven through their bodies or flayed." The order wrote this down, matter-of-factly, as if it's a recipe. The order controlled everything: trade, manufacturing, slave labour. They built Europe's first state-controlled colonial economy. German settlers got financial incentives to move onto the stolen land via a process called Ostsiedlung. This was planned demographic replacement. The entire headquarters was built with slave labour. Archaeological evidence shows that these construction projects involved thousands of slaves. They worked in harsh conditions and they had high mortality rates. Many of those who died while the buildings were being constructed got buried either underneath or into the structures themselves. This building was made with actual human bones. They operated brothels despite being monks, and they would kidnap Prussian girls. When the girls got too old, which is about 16, they murdered them and brought in fresh ones. The last recorded slaves in Livonia died in 1455. So we had 2 full centuries of systematic government-led human trafficking. The old Prussians, the actual Prussians, were completely exterminated. Not defeated, not converted, exterminated. Contemporary German sources admit this was a genocide. German writers have called the order a giant without faith or shame built on the rubble of ill-treated humanity. In Gdansk, they massacred 10,000 civilians in one day. The tectonic order proved something terrifying. Genocide pays, and this became the blueprint for another 5 centuries of European colonization. Capitalism was built on racial hierarchies and slave labor. It relies on land theft and demographic replacement to build new markets. Everything that later happened in the Americas, from the encomienda system to plantation slavery to indigenous boarding schools, this is the structural template for racialized capitalism. Modern debt-based capitalism is also an inheritance of this logic. The system is designed to turn human life into commodities for endless extraction. The silence in the West about the genocide in Palestine is not an accident. They're not stupid. They know it isn't anti-Semitic, but acknowledging this means admitting that European colonization began in Europe against Europeans. That disrupts the convenient narrative that colonial violence was over there, only on distant others, and the empire is gone, so don't worry about it. If the order's activities are exposed as religiously justified ethnic cleansing, it complicates the narrative that Christianity brought civilization or has any sort of moral authority. Wrong. But it's important because recognizing this as early genocide demands us to confront the ongoing colonial logistics that are embedded in European politics. The muted memory of this genocide in the Baltics is an act of willful forgetting that sustains historical amnesia, and it sustains an illusion that European modernity came without any of its own foundational atrocities. This video should be revealing and make you slightly uncomfortable with just how much of Europe's collective memory was built on a lie.